Another day, another baseball game currently going poorly over for the Cleveland Guardians. We'll see how it turns out, but it's been kind of more of the same. Offense not there, starting pitching not there. On the whole, it has been a frustrating week if you are a Cleveland Guardians fan. We'll talk about this game as it is going on, and we're going to do our Wednesday wrap up on Thursday, talk about some college baseball performers on today's episode of Locked On Guardians.
You are Locked On Guardians, your daily podcast on the Cleveland Guardians, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
So this game actually didn't look too poorly at the start, right? Like, they sat back and we had a 2-run home run by Jose Ramirez. Angels didn't even wait to even it up. Zach Plesac is out of this one after just 3 2/3 innings. He gave up 6 earned runs on 7 hits, 2 walks, only 2 strikeouts. Again, that's the issue, and that is my concern when I am looking at why I view Plesac as a back end type. It's that he just doesn't seem to miss enough bats. Sam Henches is having another, solid bullpen performance. He has been excellent in that role. Just in terms of the game itself, credit to Naylor for throwing out Ohtani at home. No credit to Rosario for another error at his position. Like we always go through and we talk about, who reached base twice. Yes, it is only the 5th inning, so maybe it's going to happen, but as of yet, it hasn't. Just 1 walk and 5 hits. So in 6 opportunities, they have 2 runs. The Angels have 9 hits and 2 walks. Again, it's they've had 11, 12 opportunities. To get 7 runs on 12 opportunities is an extremely high rate. So there's a ton of extra base hits. And when you go down, oh hey, Taylor Ward, who was talking about him this week? I don't know. Who was trying to figure out a way to acquire him in a trade this week? Oh, that's right, it was me. I sat back and, the whole reason I thought that he made sense was when you look at this Angels team, their up the middle is, Taylor Wade is a filler guy. And Andrew Velasquez is a player who, this might be his longest major league time spent in the majors in years. As a almost everyday starter for the Angels in this series. So yes, David Fletcher will at some point come back and play for them. Let's see, his exact injury diagnosis is a strained hip, so it shouldn't be something that, has him sidelined for forever. But they don't have a lot of great infield options. Matt Duffy has played 2 games at second base this week. Jack Mayfield played 2 games at second base. They are filling in. They're trying to find ways to fill in. And, Jo Adell has only played 3 of the last 6 games. So they don't have... Ward has been in right every single game for them. Adell could be in right. I don't think... Taylor Ward's playing really well of late. You look at Trout in center. That's pretty much locked in. Marsh in left field. It feels pretty much locked in. If they're not going to play Jo Adell, I would totally be up for also considering a trade of some sort for him. I still have a hard time believing they will move on from him. But, at this point in time, is Jo Adell another cautionary tale? Is he going to be Benintendi? Is he going to be that guy is he going to be Nick Senzel? We get a little too precious about prospects at points, thinking they can't possibly miss, when the best prospects often do. The Gabriel Arias' best comp, whose best negative comp is Orlando Arcia, who is a top 5, top 10 prospect for the Brewers. Or how about the fact that both Jimenez and Rosario were top 10 prospects in all of baseball? Jimenez is playing well, but do you really feel like either of those guys are, have equaled that hype? So that's just one of those things, and I say this as a prospect writer. Prospects in depth, and that's why, if you go back and you listen to the AL Central Roundtable, I was like, Guardians have the best minor league system. Why do they have the best minor league system? Because they have depth. Depth is more important than star power. And everyone disagreed with that. But because go right now look and see what Bobby Witt Jr., Spencer Torkelson, go look at the hype names and how they're playing and performing. Not a lot of guys come up and stay. Not a lot of guys come up and hit the cover off the ball. It's a situation where I'd rather always have depth. And the Guardians, that's their approach. By the way, you go back and you look at that Clevenger deal, everyone's like, wow, they didn't get Campesino. Wow, they didn't get Trammell. People were talking about that the highest rated prospect went for Austin Nola in a later trade, that the Guardians settled for like lesser pieces. Someone there are people out there I really think are fantastic at the evaluation, or like you have to get someone with 7 ceiling if you're trading someone who at peak is a 7. In terms of like it's another way of saying like the 70-80 scale, like basically that he's a chance to be an ace type. You have to get someone else. The Guardians are like, no, we want to get 6 players and see what we can get. And 5 of the 6 were almost on this roster at the same time. That's the approach, and that's how the Guardians do it, and I'm with them. I think you never want to trade 4 for 1. And we'll see what happens, but it's interesting with this Angels team because they still make a ton of sense for a team to trade with. Their top infield prospects, Kyron Paris, who was actually a guy I thought the Guardians would be drafting for sure, has struggled with health. Ariel Vera is an excellent defender, but he's an A-ball. If this team decides to move on from one of these outfielders, and they should, their DH is Ohtani. What are they going to do? They don't have a spot for one of these really interesting young players. There should be a trade in place. Like these two teams, it makes too much sense to not trade an infielder for an outfielder between the two of them. I went with Taylor Ward because I liked the ceiling there. Former first-round pick, was a catcher. He looked like a different hitter last year. And after he moved off catcher, he's been, I'm not going to sit here and make fun of anyone. But, when I talked about trading for him, there were people like, he's bad. I'm like, no, he's not. You have to actually watch him. He looked like a different hitter in the second half last year when he got opportunities, and he had looked awesome in the early going. And now, again, is Jo Adell a trade candidate? What is Jo Adell's trade value? What is the trade that would make sense between the Guardians and the Angels? Is it something like Adell for Arias? Because he is a ready-to-go shortstop, and this is a team like they would be better off with Fletcher at second base, Arias at shortstop, and they would just have that plus defender at shortstop ready to go. And if you're the Guardians, do you consider that? Or is it a situation where it's like, I don't think Rosario nets you Adell, but is there a case where do you consider trading Jimenez? At this point in time, like I love Gabriel Arias. I think he is a very bright part of this team's future, but Jimenez is playing well now. Like, I don't think I'm willing to like move on from the guy who is playing well and has the big league experience versus a guy who has a high ceiling but also has a lot of question marks. Let me know what you think. Hit me up on my Twitter at JeffMLBDraft. I want to thank you for making Locked On Guardians your first listen today and every day, wherever it is you get podcasts. I also want to take this moment and, if you don't know me, before I hosted Locked On Guardians, is this going to be episode 700, by the way? I should really look on that as I'm recording here. But I was a lead draft and prospect analyst at Scouting 24/7. Before that, tomorrow's episode is going to be episode 700. But before 700 episodes of this podcast, I was national writer for Scout and 24/7. Before that, I wrote Indians Baseball Insider, Indians Prospect Insider, and had stuff appear on literally every Cleveland blog you can imagine and or read that talked about baseball. So, this game right now, it's in the middle of it. Owen Miller does have 2 hits. We do have one player who's reached base twice. I believe that hit just happened right now as I was recording in the 6th. This is a lineup, though, for all of my belly aching. I like the lineup today. I don't know what you do with Franmil. Oh boy, he's now what, 0 for 6, so 6 straight strike. I believe in Franmil Reyes. I like Franmil Reyes. I think Franmil Reyes is a potential 40 home run guy. I don't know what's wrong with him right now. You have a new hitting coach. This is what Chris Valleca is for. But it is clear that Franmil Reyes is in his own head. 0 for 6 with 6 strikeouts. He's currently up to bat. We'll see if he can make it 7 straight strikeouts. And who knows? Maybe I should go back to the Monday game and see if it's actually more than that. But it's 6 straight strikeouts. And it's not like, Sandoval, Ohtani misses some bats, but he's only struck out 4 players in this, only has 4 strikeouts in this game. Half of them are to Reyes. Ohtani's already out of it, by the way. I don't know. Sorry, my co-host. You want to come up and say something? Are you as baffled as I am? Franmil Reyes was an excellent hitter a year ago. An excellent hitter. I'm glad they're moving him down, but I don't know what you do with him right now. You can't bench him because that's not going to accomplish anything. You got to let him hit, but man, it's just been... what do you do with a problem like Franmil? I don't know. It's just, he is clearly in his own head. This is where you got your new hitting coach. This is where Valleca earns his keep in the beginning. Like, he made some great, he wasn't the hitting coach of the Cubs, but he did a lot of great work with the Cubs with some of those guys like Patrick Wisdom, Ian Happ, some of Frank Schwindel, some of those guys who were not no names or guys who had bounced around, who had not been effective. This is where we need him. He is got it, because if Franmil Reyes is even just a league average hitter, that's a huge hit to this lineup, because he was the only hitter outside of Jose Ramirez. He was out in front of that one, who looked like a potential middle of the order bat. Like, even if the rest of the lineup is stabilized, like, it's kind of crazy to think the offense has shown as much life as it has when you have Franmil Reyes hitting worse than most pitchers. It is a problem. It's maybe the biggest problem in the early going. How did my camera get shifted that much? I'll blame my co-host down here. But we're going to take a break. We're going to come back and talk more about the lineup, why I like this lineup, why I think it's a great call, a good call, even though they're currently losing big in this game. I think Tito made the correct decision. And our sponsor today is BlueNile.com. I've talked about it before. They make really interesting high-end jewelry. And right now, what I want us to talk about specifically is this Mother's Day, give mom something she'll treasure forever with jewelry from BlueNile.com. And Locked On Sports listeners get $5 off $500. This podcast exclusive is only good through Mother's Day. Use the code Locked On. That's code Locked On. Plus, every order is insured, ships free, and arrives in discreet packaging that won't give away what's inside. Shop stress-free and find your forever piece. Go to BlueNile.com today. Like I said, they do really interesting pieces. Go check it out. Go to BlueNile.com and see what they might have that might suit your needs, wants, desires. Remember to use the promo code Locked On and get something for mom. So, if you're watching the game last night, you probably know that Franmil, he didn't strike out. He managed to do something even worse and hit into a double play. I mean, jeez. What do you do? Honestly, like, what do you do? He's got to play every day. He's got to hit his way out of it. He has shown he's an excellent player, but this is one of the worst stretches I've seen a hitter in a long time. He needs to get out of his own head. Like I said, Chris Valleca, go earn your keep. Like, this is what they go out and get a new hitting coach, because your potential 40 home run hitter it looks like he's just completely shell shocked right now. It's my goodness. But why I like this lineup? So Straw, okay, yeah, I mean that makes sense. 2, Rosario, no. This is the biggest issue I have the entire. First, he's playing shortstop. Second, he's hitting 2. Yeah. Ramirez 3. Okay, Owen Miller 4. I'm fine with that. He has been one of their best hitters. He had 2 hits again today. 5 Naylor sounds good. Franmil 6. You're moving him down, but still letting him be in a position to help. You might consider moving him down more. We'll have to see. Richie Palacios at 7, and he's got another hit today. Like, all that guy does is get hits. Hopefully we'll find out more with Stephen Kwan, but right now what we have is, if Palacios is going to be out there in left field, he gets hits. I'd rather see him in there than Ernie Clement. And again, that's not a knock on Clement. Yes, I'm lower on Clement than most, and I recognize that. But I think he's a useful backup, but I'd much rather see if you have a little bit more with someone like Palacios. And then they have Luke Maley is playing today, catcher at 8, which is the whole you want to have speed at 9 with Jimenez there. Honestly, I'd just rather flip Rosario and Jimenez right now. Like, just do it. For as much as we're sitting here banging on Franmil, Rosario's line is not that much better. And that's, for this team right now, you got 3 auto outs in the lineup. How are they going to recover between Rosario, whoever's playing catcher, and Franmil? It sets up an untenable situation. Why have they lost, looks like soon to be 6 in a row? Because they got 3 automatic outs. They got one pitcher who has just not been together, and a pitching staff in general with down velocity. It's not a strong... This is not the pitching staff of 5 years ago. And for as much as, they get rightfully a lot of credit for pitcher development, this is not like when Bieber came up, or like when Clevenger came up, and all of a sudden it's like, no, that's still one of the top 20 pitchers in the American League. They have one top 20 pitcher in the American League right now. This isn't the days where this was a World Series team where we probably didn't appreciate that might have been 1 through 5 at one point in time the best staff that in the history of the organization. This isn't that. This is a team right now that has one ace whose velocity is down but has still been effective, and 4 starters who are back end types, and they're pitching like back end types, and unfortunately, that's what we're seeing. It's back end pitching. It's a positive momentum. Again, losing Kwan has just been such a killer because he had filled in that 2 role so well. And, statistical analysis shows the number 2 spot is the most important spot in your lineup. You should put your best hitter there. Going from Kwan to Rosario is just a killer. Not only is it just the drop in production, not only is it, man, there's another Taylor Ward hit. Extra bases again. That's 3 extra base hits in this game. Or is it a triple? It's a triple for Ward. It means he's a single away from the cycle right now, unless they're going to consider an error on what happened with Straw. He jumped and then he failed to pick up the ball. But I think he'll get the triple. So he's double. Maybe we'll be talking about Taylor Blake. Not Taylor Blake Ward is my friend. Taylor Ward, outfielder for the Angels, might be. He's got the double and the counts as a triple. He's got the double, the triple, and the home run. He needs a single in the 7th, 8th, or 9th inning to get there. Oh, Straw was very close to catching that. He made a really good attempt. Still, I'm just going to sit here and pat myself on the back. If you're subscribed on YouTube, you can see it. If nothing else, if the Guardians had gone out and traded Rosario for Ward, as I had been saying, we wouldn't have had to face Ward this weekend, this 3-game series, as he just decimates the entire Guardians team. And Rosario wouldn't be butchering the lineup as one of the 3 automatic outs. I like this team. I think this is a team that's going to win mid-80s of games, but this is not, for as much as we want to get excited for it, and not, I get accused sometimes of being too negative, this is not the team. Like, when I moved back to Ohio, 2012, we saw things start to build, and then it was really more about 2014, where I know 2013 they made the postseason. Remember, that was like Ubaldo and Danny... why am I blanking on Danny Salazar's name there? And it took him a few years to figure out, no, Kluber is the ace. Him to come up and really handle that role. Carrasco to get everything straightened out. But that, 2015-ish through 2020, before kind of the wheels started to come off, like that 5-year run was special. When you look at just the talent in that pitching staff, the talent at points in that bullpen, the Jose Ramirez, and say what you want to say about Francisco Lindor. He's still an elite talent. He's showing it again this year. This team, Carlos Santana at his peak was an above-average bat. That was a brutal play by Naylor. This game is just... Ugh. It's hard to watch. Like right now, it's really kind of hard to watch this team in this weekend series. Yeah, that's been the last 6 games. I apologize to anyone who was listening that sound might have bothered. But yeah, this team, they just, Logan Allen is not good. He's still here. He's pitching. Josh Naylor is playing out of position because they don't have a better option. They need a right fielder, someone who can legitimately be the right fielder of the now and the future for this team. And again, I'm just going to go back to what I've talked about so much. Like, okay, maybe Anaheim is not moving Taylor Ward, but if they're not moving Taylor Ward, they're at least going to have to think on Jo Adell. I mean, they're currently 11-7. Los Angeles is. They are second in their division, half a game behind the Mariners. Mariners have already gone tonight. They win this game, then the Angels will be tied for first. You know, you can go through and see, like, their bullpen, they spent a lot of money on. Their starting pitching is improved. You know, they have an interesting staff. We'll see if guys can continue to hold up. When you look at Ohtani, Detmers, Lorenzen, Syndergaard, like, that's, Ohtani is not held together. Syndergaard has not been, stayed healthy. Sandoval is a guy I thought would be best served as a reliever, but I mean, Lorenzen was a reliever. Detmers is a recent high pick. We'll see if Sam Bachman can move quickly through the minors to help them. But yeah, right now, this is a team. The Angels are a potential playoff team, and that's why, again, it makes so much sense for the Guardians and the Angels to talk about an infield trade. I'm just going to keep harping on that for this show today. Why is my camera just sneaking up on me constantly here? I want to remind everyone to go check out Locked On Guardians, subscribe, hit the little bell on YouTube. We didn't break the top 10 this week in terms of shows on the YouTube. This game looks like it's going to go long, all things considered, because they are just beating this pitching staff up. So let's do our 3 stars as of now. 3 stars in the 6th inning, as this is about to become a 10-2 affair, I feel like, very soon. Owen Miller and Jose Ramirez, the 3-4 hitters. Jose with his 5th home run. Miller's got 2 hits. And then I might just give it to Sam Henches for having a clean 1 1/3 of an inning, which is something that no one else has really managed. Naylor, I would have been up for consideration if I felt like he misplayed the double there. Let me know if you agree or disagree with that assessment. We're going to take that break, come back, and do a little college talk at the end. Talk a little draft. It is NFL draft weekend. I've already kind of let my feelings be known on everything going on there. This will be the first draft I have not watched since I was about listened to or watched. I did have some that I drove home and did not watch, but I at least watched one day of it, so let's change it. I don't think I've missed a draft since I was something like the first real draft memory is that trade down year where everyone wanted to take JJ Stokes and Warren Sapp. I don't know what year that was, but that's like my first. I remember watching that, being excited for the high pick and the trade down. So we'll talk baseball draft instead. All in a moment here on Locked On Guardians. One of my biggest regrets in life right now is not going over to Bet Online to bet on Stephen Kwan for Rookie of the Year. With the players not performing and, maybe Kwan's health wound up hurting him, we'll see just how much money I ended up costing myself by not taking my own advice. Over at betonline.net, your number one source for all of your betting stats and sports info. Find out the latest sports developments, league reviews, and news, including this year's basketball playoffs and the start of the Major League Baseball season. BetOnline is your continued source for all of your sports wagering information, from live betting to playoffs, esports, and more. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends in action. BetOnline, where the game starts. Maybe I am going to successfully reverse jinx this one. Maybe it will end this inning at 9-2. So let's talk some baseball. A few weeks ago, I talked about the Hispanic Titanic, Ivan Melendez. I thought it was interesting when I went and looked. MLB just extended their draft to like a top 150. And I was just I'm always curious to see like how their rankings are, because theirs is more of a consensus board I've talked about. That's not necessarily a negative. I don't want someone to view that as like me credting on them, because like honestly, they do an impossible job and do it well. But they didn't include anywhere in their top 150 Melendez. I was like, okay, how do you ignore what he has done this year? he, last checked, not only is he leading the nation in home runs. I get it. He's an older player. He's a first base only, but he leads the NCAA in home runs. He's walking more than he strikes out. He is hitting 400. It's like he's literally done everything. Like if there's a statistical category that you're interested in, he's in the one of the top walk in terms of walk rate as well. Like he's doing it all. Let's see. So here's his slash line: 404, 528, 897, a 1.425 OPS. BABIP is over 400. Home runs 21. Walk rate 18.5%. Strikeout percentage 17. Just purely on performance. Just purely based on numbers with the way I like to look at things. Yes, he's 22 in January. So he's not like super old. There's going to be like 23-year-olds and the like. I mean, I would be hard pressed to not at least have him somewhere in my top 100 just because it is such a complete performance. I mean, it is just right now he's got to be your favorite for the the college player of the year. So, he's one of those guys I'm going to keep coming back to because just A, Hispanic Titanic is amazing. B, the production is unreal. Just absolutely unreal. Now, in terms of pitching, I thought it was interesting. You can go back to one of our first profiles on here when I talked about Cooper Hjerpe from Oregon State, I believe, right? And how he fit the Guardians model. By the way, he now leads the nation in strikeout per 9. Like, I think it's over 14. He is very much a Guardians type arm. And if they can get him at the comp round, I would. And they like that Oregon State program. They do. So just definitely a name to keep in mind. Maybe I just reverse jinx this, so it's going to get even worse. Like, Logan Allen, he may not be long for this roster, honestly. But Hjerpe is another one statistically. I don't. Okay, so when you look at this class, one can make the strong case that it's the prep players with Drew Jones, Tamar Johnson, Jackson Holiday, maybe Elijah Green still, and then Brooks Lee. And it's like those 5, and then, okay, if you want to make a case for Kevin Parada as the next great Georgia Tech catcher, who's also, I think he's like second in the nation in home runs, was announced this week. Dylan Lesko, who's the top prep arm. He's a little bit undersized for a right-hander. He throws really hard. And guess what? Tommy John. Like, he still might go in the top 10 because it's a really bad class. But, like, that illustrates, again, why I am so much lower on prep arms. In general, it's just the risk is too high. I thought it was interesting that I saw MLB moved up Daniel Susac. He's actually not played as well since he's moved off of the easy part of the schedule. I wasn't as high. They moved up Gavin Cross quite a bit. Players who are in kind of somewhat free-fally. Why am I blanking on the Stanford outfielder, Brock Jones? Like he is falling very heavily down boards. It's just not there. Landon Sims, who got hurt. Peyton Pallette, who got hurt. It's who's rising. There's some prep bats, and then there's like, how do you feel about pitchers? It's like the top. I think their top college pitcher is from Gonzaga, Gabriel Hughes, who's had some good performance numbers, but I didn't expect him to end up being in some places. Carson Weisenhunt, who hasn't pitched because he got suspended for maybe it was Adderall. I'm not going to say what it was. He had a substance in his, a substance that caused him to get suspended. I don't know if he's formally stated it or if it's formally gotten out there. So, he's still top 5 and a 24th ranked player in this class. He didn't pitch once this year. Connor Prelip at 23 has been hurt almost his entire college career. He's, I had him in the teens. It'd be nice to see him pitch because like the stuff is there. I'll just go out and say it. Like Jude Fabian should be higher than 29th. He's not going to turn 22 until the middle of the summer. He's a young kid The big knock on him was his strikeout rate, and he's cut it down massively. He's hit a ton of home runs. He's walking a lot. He can play center field, maybe, but we'll be fine on the corners. Like, he's doing everything you would want someone who is returning to college to do. He has taken the jump that I think we kind of hoped he would take a year ago. But I think he, could be a top 20 pick right now. It depends how much, you like some of the other players. This is not a great draft. That's just 100% it. Like, I'm kind of like the other guy. Like, I was really big on Robert Moore because what he managed to do last year, and now he has tumbled down boards because he's having a rough spring. Like, I had him like 11th, and I believe he's in like the top 15 over at MLB. They have him at 92 now because he has the size is a real issue, and now the production isn't there to match to drive him up places. It's going to be interesting to see what the Guardians do. Could they go pitcher? They could at 16. But right now, it's how do you feel about the high school pitcher class? Could you? I got into a debate today, and I still think we are seeing them as they've let go of more scouts, as they kind of shifted to more statistical-based models. While they have, it's a good point. I should give credit where it's due. About the fact that when they have drafted bats, they have gone with like up the middle high school players. That was from, I talk with you all the time, to Phenom MVP Zach. And he's right in that. They have. But I think like last year, what we saw was this lean into what the depth of the class is. And then also just as much data as possible on any player you draft. The more data, the better. And I really need to kind of sit back and look. But I'm betting Chase DeLauter, if he is there, is going to be the Guardians' pick. Like that they prefer guys who perform well in the Cape. They don't mind if a guy had a down junior year. They're gonna like the physical tools. They're gonna like the age-based models. He is the guy that it's becoming more and more possible that he could be on that board. And I'll just say he makes a lot of sense at that point in time. It's going to be interesting. This is, again, it's not a great draft. I thought it was setting up to be an interesting one in terms of depth. I do like the catchers in this class, maybe more than others. Dalton Rushing, he's not really a catcher. It's weird that they have him listed higher than Mettinger. Josh Kisevich from Oregon is definitely a name to know. I feel like he very much fits the Guardians model, so keep that name in mind. Tristan Verling, it's weird that Gonzaga's got a pair of really interesting arms that their arms are challenging the Florida State arms of Messick and Hubart. They are just not high on a lot of players I am. As I scroll through this list very quickly, it's like having Dominic Keegan over Hayden Dunhurst is not something I would do. Not having Metzinger, I don't even know if he made their list. There's got to be a point where, Jared Jones at 145. Remember when he was getting top 25 hype? Nolan McLean from Oklahoma State. This has just been and the problem with a lot of these guys who I'm saying, where it's like, wow, that is a massive drop, is it's not because there is a ton of people elevating themselves. There's not a ton of players that are really putting their names on the map, making an imprint, and making it so you can't ignore them. It is because guys are just not playing well. Yeah, no Metzinger. That's a bit of it. Again, in the top 150, with what he is doing at the program he's doing, with what he is catching, given his first opportunity to perform, that means something to me. I consider him a second-round value. So I apparently am really different this year than the crowd. So it'll be interesting when the time comes to discuss the MLB draft. I went long again. I want to thank you all for listening. Remember, we want to stay in the top 10 on YouTube, so get those hits up and going. Like, subscribe, all that great jazz, as it were. And also just, downloading daily with the podcast is much appreciated. Tell me what you want to hear, what you want to know. I am getting together more questions for a mailbag, so also hit me up on Twitter at JeffMLBDraft so we can do another mailbag question sooner rather than later. Maybe I'll even try to stream tomorrow evening. I've also had some talk about having a pitcher from AA, not Espino. I'll say that. But a different starter from Double A. I don't want everyone to get too excited who's might be coming on this show soon. I'm trying to finalize some things. But I would again want to thank the Locked On Guardians audience. 700 episodes. Tomorrow is going to be a 700th episode. I don't know what I'm going to do for that, but thank you all. Let's make it the biggest episode ever. Like and subscribe, share, all that things. Thank you as always. And as I end every episode now, go Guardians, go.